both of these teams, but I still feel like we have a lot of answers to be shown from TT because we need to see something else from them other than that Azir, which has been banned away.
So, yeah, taking that one off the board and the Sejuani. And this is what I was talking about. You can kind of leave open a couple of different quote-unquote OPs here from the red side bans because I just don't think TT play them that often. So it is something that we will have to wait and see. For the moment, it is going to be TT kind of forcing themselves in it. Do RNG ban the Nico? That is the question because they could honestly leave it open, take the Tristana for themselves, and move forward with that kind of an idea in mind. Tristana, Wukong, or even a Tristana and a Viego could be a big combination they could look towards.
Surely RNG take away the Nico. Nico's second most played for UCal. No, that is going to be an insta-lock-in, I'm assuming, for the side of TT. UCal more than happy to take that away as Tangyuan. I mean, he has stuff in his pocket like that Jace, where it does lose a little bit in that early game, but eventually, once those items come online, you can bully the Nico out. But there's a reason why this champion is pick or ban in the LPL, as it isn't getting hovered right now, which... No, it's going to be a trade between LeBlanc and Nico for the side of RNG, as they decided to go with the macro champion in that Shiv for the LeBlanc.
Yeah, side lane split pushing here for TT as they do kind of get some. And honestly, I kind of like this trade-off for them as well because it is a bit more like UCal can solo carry. We've seen games in the LPL of recent date where the LeBlanc just literally split pushes to absolute oblivion and there's nothing you can do about it. You send multiple members, you lose Baron. If you don't send multiple members, you lose your base. So little things like that just make this champion so obnoxious to deal with. It leaves you with very little room for error. And RNG, they're going with the Nico. And the Aphelios is going to be locked in here. They're looking towards maybe getting themselves a much more, much bigger team fight composition, similar enough to game number one. But for TT, if they can keep them away, if they can just kind of constantly, keep RNG away from those big team fights without them being able to use those big AoE ultimates, they're fine. They're going to keep this LeBlanc at the side lane.
I mean, depending on what Beitran wants to pick up to synergize alongside this LeBlanc, I'm assuming it's going to be something like the Sejuani or the Wukong, depending on what he wants to pick. I personally would prefer the Sejuani, but you need to remind the audience that something like the Poppy is still up and available, and that can shut down UCal extremely early on into the game, denying that Shiv spike as that first item. But we'll have to wait and see what RNG decides to take as a response to the mid-jungle duo being hovered right now. But I'm very surprised. I mean, this is great because we highlighted the mid lane matchup head-to-head between Tangyuan and UCal, and they're delivering because I personally think Tangyuan a more teamfight oriented player, while UCal on the other side a different type of playstyle where it is solo carrying the side lane, and they have been committing to that.
Get the Viego going and building some kind of big burst composition here for TT. If they can catch somebody out with the LeBlanc and the Viego, there is very little hope for them to stay alive. And on the opposite side there, you got a lot of AoE just coming in here from the Venn diagram of death between the Cyclone and the Pop Blossom. You can add the Moonlight Vigil in there as well for good measure. But now we'll see where RNG want to try and take this kind of next few bans, see if they want to try and focus in towards those AD carries, which is exactly what they're going to do. I wouldn't be surprised to see TT ban away the Cassante. Get that off the board, get it out of this game. I don't want to see it.
See, the problem is Renekton's supposed to be a counter to Cassante, especially in the early. Renekton's supposed to be bullying out Cassante,
not if Hoy is playing the Renekton, so...
Not if you tank that extra tower shot, which was extremely well played by Breathe. But once again, bottom lane and support and top lane being left open for RNG to kind of pick up. But I'm assuming once again it's going to be the support being the counter pick, as we keep highlighting Lumal and Yaya have a lot of say when it comes to the initial engage. But we saw how prevalent the Rel was, especially in the hands of Yaya in that game one. Honestly, was the reason why they were able to kind of take that first game away. It was through his initiations and how cutthroat he was, getting his hands onto the carries of RNG and shutting them out every single major objective. Also working alongside Beitran, but this time around he's on the Viego, something more carry, so yeah, he needs to make up for that engage.
You make a lot of sense. You make a lot of great points. I still need TT to ban this Renekton, or this Cassante. I just don't want to see it. I need them to just respect it, to respect me, to respect everyone here. No, they're going for the Jax, which, I mean, yeah, Cassante, easy pickup here for RNG, and we saw how that matchup went last time. I just expect the same thing again. But now TT maybe going towards that Tristana and possibly a Nautilus themselves to try and round out this bot lane.
I wouldn't be mad if 1xN does lock in the Xayah, but Tristana and Rel does seem a lot more fun, especially just Goomba stomping the Sephiroth out of existence when it comes to that early game. So it really depends on what TT's approach is. They have relatively aggressive side laners coming into this game 3, the Renekton and the LeBlanc. A lot of pressure drawn in, so maybe something that is a little bit more stable when it comes to the 3-man unit in the mid lane that can't be easily engaged on by the Wukong and Nico is the way to go. But Rel does get locked in for Yaya 2 times in this series, and there's a reason why he was MVP in game 1, and hopefully he can redeliver on that as well. But maybe something in the Braum where it does provide a bit of protection for LP in those team fights could be the final pick of RNG.
Kitty, I'm still mad. I'm still mad. I'm still upset.
You're not letting go of this, are you?
I just, like, I don't know. I feel like it is a little bit of ego that kind of comes out from players. Like you mentioned, it's just like, but the Renekton counters the Cassante. It's like, yeah, but obviously not that well. It's not like, you know, like a Zed into a Teemo or something where he's just going to absolutely obliterate you every single time you show your face. That's just not how it works. But we'll see if Hoya can have a slightly better one. I will swallow my feelings. I will get less upset about this because obviously I don't want it to control how I feel about this particular game, unless, of course, Breathe 1v4s and I will just lose my mind. But we are going to see the Alistar getting locked in and loaded here. You've been wanting to see it pretty much all series long. Finally, you will get your wish, Kitty, and we're going to have it a little bit. And it's great because, like you mentioned, you mentioned the Braum for disengage and protection. This kind of does a little bit of both. It has that disengage with the headbutt, but also with the pulverize being able to kind of combo in and make it that, again, you still have really good front-to-back team fights here for RNG.
This is scary. We've seen this exact matchup played by EDG Maker, and he was the Alistar being that counter pick up against the Rel. I unfortunately forgot who the receiving ended, but I remember it was an absolute stomp. It was the Ezreal Uzi game. So I need to take a look on that. But terrible matchup when it comes to the bottom lane 2v2. Very hard to find your hands onto the opposing enemy AD carry, where your combos will just get disrupted by the Alistar. So Yaya on this Rel 2 times in a row for tonight has to choose his angles very carefully. Honestly, might need to get a little bit creative, not just engaging in a straight line because of the Alice's presence, and also the Nico, which is going to be extremely tough for him to pile around. But once again, TT locking in a static Shiv user in the mid lane. They want to play through the side lanes, and they want to get LeBlanc ahead early.
Well, we'll see what they can do. We are no longer theorizing. We are no longer hypothesizing. We are going to be jumping onto the riff for game 3 of this best of 3. It is down to this one single deciding factor. Whoever comes out on top, that is the question. And now for RNG, a win here puts you up in 6 and 5, gets you nicely snug up there into that top 10 position. I believe, actually, it will put them just above the likes of Team WE in 7th, so they'll actually just kind of take a little bit of a leapfrog for the moment. However, for TT, a win here will put you on to 3 and 8. It doesn't sound great, because guess what? It's not. However, that will lock in Billy Gaming into playoffs, 100% confirmed, if TT do take the win. So there's other people waiting on the result here, not just these two teams.
I mean, TT, if they want to make it to playoffs, they realistically have to make the miracle run. If you look at their future weeks ahead of them, they still have EDG to play. They still have OMG, LNG, and finally JDG in that week 7. So this win, or that series win up against RNG, is going to be super important. With RNG's recent performance, this is the most vulnerable state that they've shown us so far into summer. But fortunately, Tangyuan picking up his game in that game 2, bringing this to a 1-1. Hopefully we can see that trend continuing for this final game.
And Kitty, normally at this stage of the game, we'd be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We're not really going to see a lot until that first dragon spawns. That's kind of the big indicator that we've seen in this series, that both teams are very happy to kind of farm a little bit safely until that first dragon. The first dragon has been very key for TT. We talked about it in the first game, saw how RNG contested them in the second, and we'll see if RNG or TT can maybe make a move here into getting that early advantage once more. And again, finding out where and when they can get themselves a little bit of movement. But I love the fact that we saw an early move here from Wei. He got help from both solo laners.
He has the angle.
He does, but does get spotted out almost immediately. I feel like he did, or maybe he didn't.
He
Did
dodged
Hoya?
it.
I don't. Oh, we'll have to see a replay. I would love to see a replay of that. Yep, slice and dice. He definitely did not see him. Now Hoya is in a very unfortunate position. Will flash away, knocked back. He is dead to rights. Nothing he can really do. And this is just really smart move coming out here from RNG. As I say that, looking at towards the bot side, Yao Yao got punted back in towards the turret, but did not really have any aggro, so wasn't going to take any kind of a trade back.
This is the way that we all expect, and he, once again, dodges the vision perfectly for that top lane exchange, even getting a flash for flash out of Hoya. So realistically, he is once again vulnerable to something of a regank, as Baytron desperately trying to crawl back anything he can in this bottom side jungle. But Wake picking up that Sheen from the first blood does mean he is significantly stronger than Baytron if he does spot him out here.
Yeah, well, he will spot him. I don't think he'll be able to do it. Spot him for a second. That's about as much as he'll get. Does notice that 2 of his camps are gone. Yao Yao now here with 1xN with the priority they had garnered in bot side. They're going to be able to make sure Beishuan can keep farming up. This is the thing. There's always an opposite and equal reaction to every action you take. So RNG, they gave early priority to top side. They pushed away and said, look, we're going to throw in a, Nico leash. Breed's going to give you a leash. Everyone's going to give you some time here to make sure you have a early clear off these Raptors. And they turn into a first blood. Very well done by them. But does mean that they are going to give up a lot of farm on the other side of that. Look at the difference there. You can already see 12 camps. It's going to be 4 camps now. Double the CS already is between the junglers.
Yeah, but this entire time I was just hoping that we get a replay of that top lane gank, because RNG played it very patiently, playing up the Q3 from this Cassante. No flash available for Breed. Beishuan is here.
Yeah, Beishuan just perfectly aligned to try and make this one work. There is a Q3, but it's not going to come out in time. And that's going to be Beishuan getting a taste of the power that is the Cassante.
I mean, it really was just whichever jungler made it to top lane first, but the wave slow building towards Hoya does mean Breed was a little bit caught out of position. Great! CC coming at Yukal, dodges the Alistair combo.
Fancy feet. Yukal just making sure he gets the much more favorable trade in that particular exchange. And just able to kind of CS underneath the turret. So this is a lot stronger here from TT. A lot more aggressive, especially between their jungler and their top laner, making sure Hoya doesn't fall too far behind. I like that adaptation. You don't want that to be a bleeding lane, because like you said, the Renekton should have the early advantage. You don't want to be giving that one up too early.
Most definitely, and with TT locking in the Tristana and the Rel Renekton, there's a lot of angles for Baytran to kind of impact these side lanes, and Yukal on this LeBlanc very mobile to rotate towards your skirmishes. But I'd love to see a bit of aggression for this first dragon for the side of TT, but they have to play very carefully, because you need to consider the fact that the LeBlanc isn't going to offer as much. 1v1 on the top side, no flashes, ultimates are getting burnt.
We are going to see 1xN getting flashed upon, and he's going to cleanse and flash himself. Does about not quite get the buffer going for himself, and it means that he's going to lose both summoners on the bot side. However, with Wei being spotted out, we do see Hoya getting very aggressive in the top lane, and finally gaining some bit of an advantage. And that was in, kind of a nice little moment there for the side of TT top lane, but does cost them the priority around this dragon, and probably going to be that first dragon take.
It's insane to me to think that Breathe had an entire Sheen on Hoya. Another engage from TT.
Yeah, Luma's dead. He's going to be donated over to the Tristana, and that's going to stop the dragon from taking as well. This game is getting very scrappy all of a sudden, Kitty. This game is starting to kind of fall apart, and we're only 6 minutes in. 3 kills at this stage is unheard of for most teams in this meta.
Yeah, and Lumal in this series in particular, very exposed with how he's positioning for these skirmishes and gets often caught out before it even begins. So once again, this Alistair 0-1 and 0. But we need to also talk about how the top lane 1v1 did result in Breed missing out on 2 waves. So it does put Hoya back into the game. And I wanted to say that Hoya was sitting on a D-Blade while Breed on a Sheen, and he was still able to win the 1v1. So I don't know how else I'm going to convince you that Renekton should be winning the 1v1, but Hoya's doing just that.
Well, Dragon started up. I talked about how important this is for TT. They do have level 6 on Beishuan. That can be Reset City here alongside the Tristana. Yeah, I mean, this is just not a fight you can take. Good to see RNG recognizing that and just backing themselves away completely. We talk about that replay. Did they just literally replay to show... Okay, I thought they were just replaying to show the one cannon, but that's 2 full waves. Oh my lord, that was an incredible trade there. And that's why we're seeing such a huge level discrepancy between these top laners now.
Yeah, most definitely, and Hoya going in once again for the trade. This Renekton is going to slowly become a problem, but something that is an ongoing trend for the past 2 games is whichever team secured that first Rift Herald did seem like the mid laner was 10 times stronger than the opposing team, as that Rift Herald got dropped in the mid lane and tower plate's going to either Yukao or Tangyuan. Hoya, oh my lord.
He's
Chill
having
out.
a much better time of it this time around. This is the counter you were telling me about so much, and that's going to be Breathe resetting again. That's
I'm
more
like a
XP.
salesman.
I know, right? It's just, I mean, look, you know, you gotta be able to kind of put out the information there, tell people what's good and what's bad. But I mean, you know, Dragon, the Rift Herald, Beishuan kind of having a much better time. And Beishuan, because of all those extra camps he took, is still twice the CS ahead almost from Wei. Wei will just about hit level 6, but already the first 2 objectives being taken is massive for TT.
I mean, TT, they're on their game. You even see 1xN slightly hovering towards that mid lane, securing this first Rift Herald going into Beitran's pockets. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets dropped in mid lane to get that static shiv online ASAP for Yukao, as we have both supports just hovering in the mid lane. But with how the game's going, very great start for the side of TT, and Hoya lucky to come back into this game through Beitran. And I think this Viego is going to become a huge problem, as he is now 73 CS on this champion.
Yeah, this is why you pick the Viego. You hard farm, and you just kind of get your advantages from that. And the fact that you might be like, oh, he's hard farming, he's not doing anything else. No, he's hard farming, and he's ganked top, and he's taken Dragon, and he's taken Rift Herald. He has kind of done a lot of things around the map, and this is the biggest issue we're seeing with Wei so far. The split is that once he falls behind, he really does look a little lost. He doesn't really know how or when he wants to try and take things and take fights particularly, and just kind of doesn't really know what to do with it. So his time gets very, very much inefficient. 30 CS lead in that jungle is huge this so far in the game. And again, this is just RNG's kind of, this is 2 teams honestly struggling with their form coming into today. This could be a momentum swing for either of them.
Yukao does pick up the Shiv as well as the first item, so huge wave priority for the mid lane to work off. But wait, like you said, this Wukong, we expect a huge wombo combo. The Venn diagram out of RNG for this upcoming team fight, which will be, I'm assuming, happening soon towards the bottom side, because we have the entire squad of RNG hovering this. But once again, RNG, they need to be the ones pulling the trigger. They need Tangyuan out of his lane and work alongside Wei to get their hands onto someone that is vulnerable like Yaya or Beichuan.
Try force and static shiv, so big power spike here for RNG, or sorry, for TT over RNG. Minute 40 till that dragon spawns. We'll wait to see where they want to try and bring that power. We'll see if the LeBlanc should have priority and where they want to bring that priority. Like you said, kind of maybe roam around, get an advantage either on top or bot. Would like to see them maybe just kind of look to try and make sure this Aphelios doesn't get too far ahead. Is sitting on about 10 or so CS ahead of his counterpart. Umao hits level 6. That's going to give him a little bit of extra tank stats. Go on.
Beitran didn't drop his Rift Herald mid lane, and Yukao already has his Shiv. That is insane. He didn't get a single tower play from the mid tower. And we do have a skank in mid lane.
Yep, Yukao does flash away though. Does keep himself safe on that one. So that's a flash for an ultimate. Very much worth here for Wei. And this is good to see from him. I want to see him kind of be a bit more proactive, but needs to come back into this lane. Yes, it's still a LeBlanc, but you can still make that, flashless mid laner work for you.
From RNG's perspective, it is really hard trying to catch out either 1xN or Yukao. Luckily, he was able to burn the flash out of this LeBlanc, but the amount of mobility and buffering that they can provide when it comes to these trades, they have to take their chances very carefully. And I even said, I mean, it wasn't the case of Yaya, get creative, maybe go for a flank angle onto them where they don't expect it. But I feel like this top side, we keep panning back here. The Renekton's just gonna take over the game. He has the Gold Drinker. Usually you see Casante's building heal cut like the Bramble Vest to really cut down on that. Unfortunately, Breed not having that available, so he's never gonna win the 1v1, as Rift Herald does get dropped in mid lane.
Yep, you do get your wish. Coach Kitty back on the scene. As we do see that's just one plate going to be confirmed there with 2 seconds till Dragon. TT know how they want to try and continue this game. They want to start stacking this objective for themselves. Wei, not really in the vicinity. Nowhere really near this. So this is just going to be an easy take here. 2 dragons to the good here for TT. We'll see what soul they end up getting. As Tangyuan And Yukal having a little bit of a tussle. There's the dragon secured as Wei just kind of showed himself. It's going to be a Hex Rift, so very powerful there, especially with the way the augments work. 1xN jumping over that wall to make sure he's in position to collect this wave. And Hoya was on a little bit of a rotation, but very much needed considering he maybe thought there was going to be a little bit more of a scuffle than there was.
Yeah, especially with RNG burning that Cyclone for the mid lane, not having the setup for that second dragon. I was surprised that RNG was honestly hovering. They should have just pushed in their ways and look for tower plates into LP and Tangyuan. Hoya using the luxury of having so much priority in this top side, obviously putting that pressure towards the dragon as well. But we see both of these teams being very reliant on momentum and how the early game goes. And this time around, it's TT picking up 2 consecutive dragons. Also the Rift Herald denied from RNG, where they are slowly creating that gold differential, and I feel like that is through the mid jungle of Beichuan and Yukal. That's definitely not what you want to be giving over as this Wukong, where you need to be looking for those skirmishes, especially when the Rift Herald's spawning in 50 seconds.
Rift Herald spawning, we did see some early vision being popped down. You can see it on the mini-map there behind the Rift Herald pit, the Baron pit. Rift Herald's only rent.
Oh my god! Oshin, we have a Kraken Tristana! We don't have a Shiv abuse on our hand other than Yukal, but still, he's a Kraken. He wants to look for this 1v1
I'll be honest,
maybe.
Shiv on the block's pretty busted, so I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, I mean, you know, good to see it coming out from 1xN, recognizing, look, I don't need wave clear, I need damage. Like, that's straight up. He just needs to kill Cassante. That's kind of his whole deal, and the Alistair.
Yep. Really dependent on that Lord Doms as well as the third item, but I'm surprised both of these junglers are hovering towards the bottom side when Rift Herald is spawning in around 20 seconds or so. I would have liked Beichuan to be hovering this 1v1 in the top side, as it is going to go down, but no flashes or anything burnt. Ultimate does get used by Hoya, but still, 4v4 on the top side. I'm assuming RNG, they do want to look for this flash available for the Nico as well, where they need to get their hands onto Beichuan and shut him down before those resets.
LP coming in, both AD carries off of a reset. Gale Force first item here for LP, so he has got his mythic up and available to him. See if he wants to try and go for this full fight. Yao Yao and Lumao kind of sitting here. Oh, they knew exactly where they were. Goes in with the Magnet Storm, but can he get the damage down afterwards? That's the question. Pop Blossom does land straight onto Beichuan, and he is dead. TT now very much in the ascendancy here. A flash and an ult from Breathe almost took down Hoya, who had to flash away without his dominance. He was very exposed. An RNG fight right back into this series.
Yeah, RNG cracked back into this with that 4v4 happening, and it was the initiation from Yaya on this rel, but not enough follow-up from 1xN and Yukal. I mean, I don't even think the Tristan was close enough to do the DPS onto that initial Magnet Storm from Yaya, but we'll have to look at the replay. Double CC onto Wei, and I believe the support of RNG, but not enough DPS from Beichuan and 1xN to really finish everyone off. And this is what I highlighted. Shut down Beichuan before he gets those resets. Really nice flash Pop Blossom from the Nico as well. Yukal.
Should be fine. Yeah, I was going to say, he's still a LeBlanc. Goes right back in there. Not quite sure if he really wanted that, but does have the support of his team. Tanguan thinking about maybe joining this one here. Hoya now recognizing the rest of RNG are on bot lane, so he picks himself up first turret of the game. Everyone just kind of resets and calms down. Minute 30 till the next dragon spawns. Should have pretty much all summoners available for both these. So actually, I say that after looking at over, RNG actually lose quite a lot in the top half of the map to try and make that fight happen.
Especially when the dragon's spawning in 1 minute and they desperately rely on Tangyuan getting his hands onto Beichuan. Engage from Luma.
Yeah, Beichuan getting CC down. Not quite getting taken out though. Those Armor Boots doing a hell of a lot. The Pop Blossom is good. 1xN trying to go for a flank. I'm not quite sure why. And again, we're seeing them just kind of get caught out. Flash in. Hoya should slice and dice and be able to secure himself a decent exit. Wei was looking to try and make sure he was on top of Hoya for the Cyclone, which was coming back up. But, I mean, TT just really all over the place. That engage. 1xN again just could not do DPS.
RNG quite literally just picked apart TT. And once again, it's Yaya and Beichuan falling as a result of that. But we keep highlighting how TT, they're trying to experiment with this static Shiv in the mid lane, but they have to play through the side lane. They have to play through the macro. Unfortunately, headbutting into this RNG roster, I don't think that's the way to go. You see that TT, 1xN over the wall. He even cancelled his initial Hexgate. So he is a little bit late to the flank, but Hoya also joining in from the back. But there just wasn't enough of an initiative coming out of the side of TT as UCal. You need to play through the poke, slowly getting down at the HP bars of RNG, but that's not enough time.
Here we go. We're going to go in again. Pop Blossom still on cooldown. Didn't use a lot here from the side of TT, but you do not have a Dominus. Tang Yuan kind of keeping everyone distracted. Mid lane is a little bit caught out. As I say, caught out. Tang Yuan gets caught. Gets straight up bursted. The Dragon, though, is going to be confirmed, you would imagine, here for the side of RNG. They're going to trade back the objective for the kill, but can they keep the fight afterwards? That is the question. Lumao trying to see if he can disengage here from the very big Mad Croc. Good blast cone to try and stop them from coming over the wall, but Yao Yao goes in and Yao Yao goes down. They weren't really on the same kind of level here from TT. They're still struggling to figure out how they want to take this fight. Wei will just pop himself off again on the Cyclone. It's a Dragon for a kill. 2 towers are going to be traded here. One in bot, one in mid. It feels like RNG come out very much ahead on that.
Yeah, although Tang Yuan is the one initially getting picked off, the RNG as that 4-man unit successfully fought off TT's engage as UCal trying to get his hands on the LP. Doesn't know Lumao's here.
Doesn't know it, but he's a slippery little snake. They should have 2 kills from this. There's not really a lot that LP or Lumao can do. No TP to try and help them out either. They will delay this, though. He does have a flash and a cleanse. He cleanses off immediately. He's 200 years, and he's still going. Not quite able to turn it back around. That means that everyone from RNG was kind of moving down and trying to defend this, but 2 kills for 1. TT make it a little bit more worth.
And that's 2 kills into Beitran's pocket as well as the Viego. A really good initial pick, like I said early on, for that Dragon. But RNG lucky enough to really burst that down while they had the numbers advantage. And we'll get a replay of the really nice Q flash coming out of this Viego and locking down Nico, just caught out of position away from the remainder of the team. But something else that was a huge highlight of this team fight was LP on the Aphelios denying the flank angles coming out of UCal and Beitran with the blast cone, and it bought so much time where Yaya going in for the engage, but his carries being blasted away didn't follow up as well. And of course, with the remainder of the play with Beitran getting those double summoners out of LP, still relatively even, but still TT would have really liked that soul point.
Yeah, I mean, would have been a very nice win condition. But look, they're still 2-1 up in that particular regard. UCal now kind of moving himself up towards this top side. You can see him just maybe thinking about going for a little bit of a split push himself now that he has got that Dark Harvest. And, sorry, not Dark Harvest, Night Harvester, excuse me.
I did the exact same thing the other day, and Historia's called me out for it, but it's okay. We've all been there.
Everyone's done it. Everyone's made that mistake.
Oh, Lumao, where are you going, buddy?
You're going to turn into burgers. You're going to be turned into burgers. He does end up getting over. As I say that, he does have Breathe now kind of sacrificing himself a little bit. Does get decent damage down. A TP going to be confirmed by Hoya, who should just die. What? What?
What did we just experience, Oshi?
That was RNG throwing, and then TT throwing back, and then RNG threw again, and then TT threw it right back. Now in the 4v5, RNG are trying to secure themselves. Do they want to go for this? Pop Blossom is good. 2-man knock-up, Baron secured. They even get themselves a little bit of damage down with the Moonlight Vigil. RNG just picking apart TT. I mean, that TP from Hoya was criminal. Criminal, to say the least.
It just went from bad to worse. That series of events, I mean, as casters, I truly don't know what just happened. UCal caught out of position as well. Another kill over to RNG. They're fully in control of this game now, picking up that Baron buff at 20 minutes, now working on the tier 1 towers in this top and middle. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was the opportunity RNG played for, but I don't know if that's the way they expected it to be.
I mean, like, this is zoom out. You're in a bad position. You pop your ultimate. That's unfortunate. Why, oh why, does Hoya wait this long? The TP, he's waiting, and then he realizes, wait, I've waited too long, and now I'm just screwed. I
like how everything started with Lumao and Breathe taking the Hex Gate. We thought TT were the ones getting those picks, but a really nice flash Pop Blossom once again from Tang Yuan onto Beitran. This Viego is not getting to play the game, playing through those resets, which TT so heavily rely on. Doesn't matter that you have a 50 CS lead in this jungle matchup because Tang Yuan's onto you.
I mean, Hoya does no damage. Breathe wins this 1v1 now. Like literally went for a full combo and is now running away as fast as he can. Yeah, goal difference was TT, now it's RNG. As you can see him, Hoya finally gets towards the Hex Gate and gets himself to safety. But yeah, that side lane is no longer an issue for the side of RNG. This Renekton is just not relevant, to be perfectly honest, in any of these side lanes. And look, gotta give props where props are due. Like LP 7-1-3, almost 100% kill participation here on the Aphelios, and this early priority on this pick proving to be massively beneficial here for the side of RNG.
Especially when you consider the fact that 1xN locking in the Tristana, she wanted to look for those early pick angles onto this Aphelios, shut him down early before he hits those 3 item spikes. I believe he's sitting on 2, working towards that 3rd. Does have the stopwatch in hand as well, but it's going to be so extremely hard. We see Yael consistently trying to look for angles on this rel, but into the Nico, into the Alistair, it's quite literally impossible unless you look for a flash engage from out of vision to catch the enemy team off by surprise. But unfortunately, not given those circumstances. RNG playing front to back, they're more than happy to be in this position.
I mean, RNG will get themselves another Hex Dragon. 5,000 gold. Just everything available to them, to be perfectly honest. Still waiting for 1xN to finish off his second item. Like, you can see just how little gold he has, considering he's just not really been available for fights. He's just either been off to the side or not really in a position to, you know, put out the DPS that's needed. He finally gets the Navori Quick Blades, but Wei might be finding himself a perfectly timed opportunity to kill, but double distortion.
Flash.
Double distortion, though, makes it a little bit harder. And Yukal has his, so... But they
He's
have got
wrapping
the
around.
flank. Look at the Alistair. Lumao is on the flank of flanks. Yukal flashes, trying to make sure he gets away. Lumao does not commit to the play. And after all said and done, it is just going to be the flash burned.
I believe I saw 4 dashes coming out of this LeBlanc as, like you said, flash burnt out of Yukal, and also vision regained by the side of RNG for this upcoming Baron in 2 minutes. But this Aphelios sitting on the GA now. I'm surprised he didn't go the Lord Dons, but honestly, you don't really need it because you just have to survive the flank from Hoya and Yael, where it is going to provide those resets for the Viego. But so far, given the lead to Baytron, we haven't seen him really pop off on this Viego just quite yet.
No, not quite yet. It went from, I think, 3-1-2 to 3-3-2. Not really having the impact he needed. It's been caught out so many times. Now with a GA here on LP, makes it so much harder to try and burst out those big DPS carries here on the side of RNG. We'll see, though. 3 minutes 30 to the next Dragon, 1 minute 40 till Baron. Plenty of time here for either of these sides to kind of go for it. But RNG are in control. Let's not make any kind of, you know, mistake about it. RNG are the ones that are basically, you know, kind of their game to lose. And I feel like for me, it's just going to come down to either a moment of brilliance or a big mistake. And from knowing these two teams from this series, it's probably going to be the latter of those two options.
Yukal really just needs to start pressuring the side lane and bring as much attention of RNG as possible while TT able to plant down their vision for these major objectives. But you do see Wei protecting this only pink ward on the pit, but I still feel like it's going to be really hard trying to approach this upcoming teamfight. 1xN, the Tristana only does extremely well once you find those W resets. The Viego only does really well once you find those ultimate resets, but you have to look at RNG's composition. It's Nico, it's the Cyclone from Wei, it's also an Alistair. You can't be jumping into these people. You have to play off those picks.
Yeah, you really, really do. And see what they want to kind of go for right now. It's going to be difficult, I feel like, to defend this tier 2 really in the long term of things. So should just be an easy outer turret to take. Hoya off on the side lane, just trying to make some kind of pressure happen. There's a cheeky little ward, as you can see in the minimap right at the bottom of it, where that tower tier 2 used to be for the side of TT. And now they have no more outer turrets. They are still waiting to confirm that mid lane tier 1. And we're waiting to see what they're able to kind of make happen here. It's still difficult for them to really push for anything. Again, you don't really have engage on the side of TT outside of Yao Yao.
Yeah, and Hoya, he did have that wave pushing in at the tier 2, threatening the bottom side, but they don't have any vision on this Baron, so they did call down Hoya early on, just in case they do rush this with LP. So it's gonna be... They do have a ward in the dot bush though, so they will be aware if RNG want to bait this. However, I don't know if they can find that flank angle that they so desperately need for this upcoming team fight.
You've no vision. It's completely dark here as they don't even know if it's going on. UCal kind of using himself as a little bit of a human ward. They've got great vision, though, on the side of RNG to kind of say, yeah, we know exactly what everyone's doing. There's a reset maybe coming in for Yao Yao. Finally recognizes that he's on a little bit of a ward. They will be able to try and clear off as much of this vision as possible. Baron has been started. There's going to be the Scryers coming out to make sure they can see what's going on. Breathe, happy to kind of tank it. 1xn's already used his jump, so he's going to be a little bit more tentative to kind of go for something. Hoya should be able to get himself over the wall. It's tentative, it's composed, it's a little bit of a weird one. Beishuan on the flank of Ages, and just going to use the Hex Gate to get himself right back into safety of his own map.
RNG very disciplined. They didn't know where TT Strangler was, so they backed off the Baron, but we do have Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. RNG re-engaging onto this Baron, though.
Beishuan is around, can make himself unstoppable with the Heartbreaker. You can see Lumao kind of checking him, and they found the Nico. Tangoing goes into Golden Stasis to make sure he does not die. The knockback means that he doesn't get the Pop Blossom, and they've killed off the Nico. It's a trade of 1-for-1. Hoya and Breathe having themselves... Sorry, not Hoya, it's Beishuan and Breathe, and that means that there's no smite. There's Baron secured here for RNG, and the blast going to keep Breathe alive. Very nicely done there from the side of RNG. They traded 2-for-1, probably going to be a 3-for-1 once Hoya goes down. And that's going to be them and the Baron. It feels like RNG are going to be able to wrap up this series to a nice little bow once they take this game.
I mean, TT, they are just running out of options. Every single ability committed to Tang Yuan on this Nico. Did have the Zhonya's, I believe it was a stopwatch by that time, also the Banshee's Veil, but LP went untouched on that Baron fight, and now they're gonna just get themselves this third Hex Soul, Hex Dragon. TT were the ones finding those early dragons. We thought whoever got the early game lead would just Dragon stack, but fortunately RNG being able to bring this game back.
Well, I'm gonna see them go for a bit of a fight around this red buff right now, and kind of back themselves out. I won't lie to you, Kitty. My feed froze, so Lumao died.
Me too.
Yeah, our
I
feed
saw
froze.
an Alistair groaning, and I'm like, Lumao's dead, isn't he? But we've, you know, blipped in and out, and he isn't exactly dead. Although RNG won the last series, and of course this is winning this one, I still feel like we can criticize Lumao for being a little bit inconsistent with his positioning. He has been giving a lot of opportunities over to TT, and with the Baron buff in their pockets, that does buy a lot of time for TT to defend off this Baron buff and the amount of macro potential they can do on the map.
Well, they're trying to overload this top side, maybe get on top of him, but he gets a flash in with the all out, and he's got a dash away. Cassante is dumb. That's my analysis. It just feels like it's a little too many escape tools, too many things that can get him away, and he goes back, loses the flash, the teleport right back into the bot side to keep up the pressure. So it's I mean, yeah, for TT you've got the death cap that finished up here for UCal, but
Lord Doms for LP as well, man. He is sitting with 4 items, while your boy 1xn, he needs to look for those resets on the W. I don't know how he's going to match the DPS, though, with the Infernum Gun as well for LP. The wave clear is insane, and that goes back to the point. I mean, UCal, he has the static shield for the LeBlanc, but there's no wave clear to clear the Baron minions.
Yeah, I mean, the Baron minions are still just that. Very buffed up and powerful. They're just going to move themselves away now after breaking open that bot lane inhibitor. Got Baron for another 20 seconds to get those nice and powered recalls. And again, this is still just RNG's game to lose. They are feeling very confident about where they are right now. And I mean, we are getting late in the game where these death timers are starting to get very significant. And it can lead to one big team fight where TT can come back. But I mean, RNG, Dragon Soul up in 2 minutes 45. They should be able to confirm this one for themselves. They have so many options to go for. I feel like it's impossible for them to pick the wrong one.
And someone I feel like we don't highlight enough is LP's journey in 2023 so far, because back on LNG, he really wasn't getting that much of a spotlight considered the names on that roster. It was Scout, it was Tarzan, but coming into this one, I feel like RNG, they have a lot of the setup that can allow LP to be that hyper carry. And of course, kind of delivering on that, because going into spring, the AD carry, or at least the names for the AD carries, leave. You have Rule to compete against. He just really didn't stand out to me, at least. But coming into summer, definitely a huge reason why RNG is able to pick up so many wins into this split.
That's mid lane inhibitor now down. So there's 2 inhibitors available for RNG to kind of put their pressure on. They've got 2 minutes until either objective really comes up and becomes available. You can see Yukal is doing desperately anything he can to clear out the wave, but a cannon minion will continue forward. They should be able to clear it off before anything significant happens to this turret, but we are starting to hit the point where, I mean, TT got to make a last stand. They got to figure out where they want to try and put their line in the stand. You do or die, and unfortunately, with the way games are going, it's probably going to be the latter of those 2.
Red and white available for LP as well. This Aphelios is unkillable for TT. Hoya's dead.
He'll have a GA. The Guardian Angel will come down, descend upon him and say, my son, you have been given another life, and immediately go back into him. 5-man Magnet Storm. Have they got the damage? This is the only way they can do it. No, they cannot. 1xN has to pop off, but 1xN hasn't got it in him. He's going to have to try and see a quadra kill in here. Penta kill for LP. And RNG will tot off this series very, very nicely with a cute little bow for LP as well.
I mean, thanks TT, because LP is going to be walking away from this series very happy man on this Aphelios. From start to finish, it was always this AD carry for RNG to be set up for success, playing alongside Tangyun's Pop Blossom, and how they were able to be set up pretty much for LP to bounce off. But RNG with a relatively convincing last game, but I would still say very scrappy. It still did go to 3 games, and I still feel like at least it's a bit of a breather for this roster considering where they're bouncing back from.
Yeah, RNG get themselves up to 6 wins. Very nicely done there. And yep, they'll take a bow. And I mean, you know, they're not overjoyed with that win. Like you said, the game 3 was good, but the previous 2 definitely feels like they had a couple of things to kind of worry about. And honestly, it just feels like most of the top laners in the LPL, you cannot give the Cassante over to anyone. I actually think it's a permaban. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I feel like it has to be banned, possibly even first rotation picked. It's that powerful, and I just feel like the more I see it, the more I'm just like, why is it just being constantly left open? Again, like, yes, you win the early game. It was kind of similar to what we saw from a couple of seasons ago when I can't remember the exact matchup it was, but it was always like you picked the Renekton early, and he was like, oh, we're smashing, and then the Jax or the Fiora or something like that would end up kind of just absolutely smashing you in the late, and it just didn't really feel like if it was a counter, but a counter for the first 15 minutes. The game just kind of goes a little bit forward. But Yukal, yeah, I mean, it feels awful. I mean, he's seeing his season moving further and further away from 2-9 now, RTT. It doesn't get much easier, and I mean, very, very rarely do we see a 7-9 team ever make it into playoffs. So I think the writing's on the wall, Kitty. I think he knows what's happening over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, you could see the devastation through Yukal's face pretty much, and how he reacted to that series loss. And this was the week for TT to bounce back if they wanted a chance to make it to the playoffs, because they still have so many Titans ahead of them in the remaining 2.5 weeks. I mean, their last or second last game is up against JDG, and it's not going to get any easier. Honestly, credits to TT. At least they were able to take this series to a 3-game up against RNG, because they still had a bit of a fight, especially with Yukal on that Azir. Once again, man is the moment for TT, but unfortunately, once you take that champion away, I mean, this is professional play. You need a different identity to adapt to when it comes to these best of series.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the LPL is just such a grueling competition. It is best of 3s. You don't just get that one game. You don't just get to kind of have a little bit of a moment where someone gave you your most OP champion, or someone was able to, maybe just misjudged how the meta was going. You have to be consistent, and consistency is king in this league. For RNG, they still got the W. They're now up to 6-5. I believe that puts them on a +4 game score as well, so definitely not doing too badly whatsoever. And for me, they are going to be probably a playoff caliber team. I think that this is a team that will make top 10. However, will they make it much further than that? That's something I don't really see happening. I feel like this is like maybe our 9th or maybe 8th best team in the league, and then I look above them and it's like the likes of Team WE, who look fantastic, Weibo, LNG, OMG. Like, I just don't see them losing them. Stranger things have happened, of course, but this is just my opinion here. I think getting the playoffs is still a fantastic achievement, should they be able to do it for this roster.
Yeah, it's very hard to pinpoint where RNG will eventually end up with, especially with how their season has went. I mean, to be fair, they took away a very clean 2-0 up against EDG, and then also taking that series win up against Ultra Prime as well. But I believe looking at my kind of notes here, TT failed to find their revenge onto RNG for the entirety of 2023 unless they make it to playoffs and they get to rematch up against this organization. So unfortunately, 0-3 in terms of the best of series. But looking at the damage dealt to champions, UCal tried so hard on this LeBlanc, but it just wasn't enough due to the draft differential, and 1xN on the Tristana just wasn't able to find those angles.
I mean, apart from the Alistair, every single person, every single champion on the side of RNG is kind of like almost like a bested role. Permaban, get rid of it off the table. We've seen it multiple times, but yeah, it just wasn't to be here for TT today. And for RNG, look, obviously we're being, you know, kind of very, at least not we, I am being a little bit maybe downtrodden on them and stuff like that. It's just very hard to get very excited about a team when you have teams that are doing so well above them. Like, you're looking at OMG, Top Esport, JDG, who, like, I think they got the fastest game of the split in game 1 of their last series, and then got an even faster game in game number 2, twice in a row against NIP. Yeah, like that's the kind of thing you're looking at. And I mean, look, we'll see how far they can go. I will be very pleasantly surprised to be proven wrong here by RNG, and it's always good to see them kind of going in. And for Tang Yuan as well, like to see a rookie player having a good moment or two for himself. So for RNG, still going good, 6-5. Actually, still remain in 8th because they are a little bit behind on WE, or WE are a little bit behind in terms of the actual series played. WE, I think, play 4 series next week or something like that. Something crazy for WE, unfortunately, as they were part of the Road to Asian Games. And now we can kind of look towards, you know, for RNG, how far can they go, I suppose. The next one's against NIP, then they play WE themselves. Those are 2 huge games now for them, kind of moving in towards the end of the split. Oh, we're going to send it over to, I believe, an old friendly face. Our interviewer today is Iris with our winner of RNG.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm Iris, and welcome to our post-game interview. I'm joined by Tang Yuan, the mid laner from RNG. First of all, Tang Yuan, thank you for joining me, and congratulations on picking up your win today against Thunder Talk Gaming. Also, you've honored your 5th MVP in the summer split. How are you feeling right now? And also, how would you comment on your team's performance today? 首先，谢谢你参加我们的一个赛后采访，也恭喜你们拿下了这场比赛的胜利，以一个让1追2这样的一个形式拿下了这场比赛。今天也是拿到了自己本个赛季第5个 MVP 了，感觉怎么样呢？以及说怎么评价今天队伍整体的一个发挥呢？
挺开心的吧，然后今天队伍的表现就是整体还是有一些不足吧，但是能赢下来就好了。
I'm very happy about our performance today, even though we still have a lot of had a little bit issues during our team plays, but definitely we're very satisfied with our victory. And my next question will be, moving on to today's game, TT went with a more composition which was more laning oriented, but after losing game 1, they managed to come up with a very good answer to this. So what kind of feedbacks did they have to manage to come back in game 2? Before heading into Game 2， 那今天其实第1、第2局的时候 ，TT 都是选择了一个相对来讲可能偏对线期强势，甚至说边路更加要舒服这样的一个阵容。那你们在掉了第1局之后，其实第2局是有一个非常漂亮的很出色的一个应对的。那想问一下，你们场间是做了怎样的一个调整呢？
提前讨论过吧，然后所以这样我们场间的话应变起来就比较自如吧。
Actually, we had a discussion about this on how we're gonna deal with the problems that actually happen in our games, especially like the problems that we are having in today's best of 3. So we're not very panicked and had a very good answer in today's before heading into game 2. And the next question, talking about game 3, it seems like your composition is more team fight oriented, but you seem to know everything about your opponent. You know what were they doing and their positions were. So what kind of game plan during the early game to the mid game？ 那第3局的阵容其实你们是更加偏向团战阵容，很扎实的一套。但是好像你们都非常洞悉对手的一个动向嘛，想问一下你们前中期的一个运营是怎么去做的呢？
因为我们这2个阵容都玩过很多，很了解吧，所以也知道该干什么。
We were very familiar with both compositions, so we know exactly what to do and how to do with this draft. So that's very familiar. And my next question will be starting from July, there will be several games to close up the regular split. So what are his expectations for the upcoming matches? 那其实从7月开始，那我们的常规赛很快就要进入到尾声了，还有几场比赛。那汤圆的一个期待又怎么样子的呢？
希望尽量能赢下每一场比赛吧。
I hope that we can win every single game in July. So thank you so much for the post-game interview. Thank you very much, and good luck with the upcoming games. 谢谢你接受我们的采访，那希望呢后面也是一切顺利。谢谢 ，and back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Iris. I love getting